Today, we talk to Nick Santonastasso, and we're going to talk to the man. Hi, my name is Troy Landwehr, and I love teaching business principles from the Bible, and I've been able to help people kind of grow their brand on social media. I work with CEOs of companies. I work with top influencers on how they can grow themselves digitally, market themselves. And today, I want to talk to one of the best people out there in the industry. And I got to tell you, I met Nick a little while ago, and I got to tell you, we become such close friends. We live close by. And what's interesting, when I met Nick, he came in hot. I mean, you were on fire. You were on fire. Tell people a little bit about yourself, Nick, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, grateful to be here. And so long story, short story is basically I am a unicorn, which means that I was born with no legs and one arm. And we can dive deeper in that in the interview. But basically, my whole life I have been pivoting. Right. And this has been the common theme during this unprecedented time of pivoting. And so I've went from, a high school wrestler to a famous prankster doing zombie pranks to then, diving into the bodybuilding industry. Yes, a man with no legs, one arm, diving into the bodybuilding industry. And then from there, really finding a passion in speaking, in influencing, and now mastering the psychology of sales to help people make more money and close more deals. But often, like you, Troy, is helping people identify who they are, who do they serve, what's the result that they want to get people, and how can they scale that online? Because I was someone, as we were talking about before this interview, who was someone who was traveling around the world, trading my time for money, and didn't have any products or service to offer people. And so I am a jack of all trades, and I'm really excited to dive into whatever Troy wants to dive into today.
Well, let's talk about, we talk about the challenges that people have in life, and you have taken those. I say sometimes your mess can be your message. You got to have a mindset. And I would like to talk to you about a little bit about you've been able in this industry because of COVID and all the pandemic. People have needed to pivot. And how does that affect you as an influencer? You've spoken all around the world. You've spoken in Asia. You've spoken in the United States. You've spoken to thousands of people. You spoke with Tony Robbins. You're one of the top trainers, one of the top speakers in the entire world. And of course, things are shut down. So how have you been able to pivot to help your brand? And what advice can you give other people?
Yeah, so great question. So in February, I moved to Vegas. And the reason why I moved to Vegas is because I was about to have one of the biggest speaking years of my life. As you said, landed a world tour with Tony Robbins and just like had the whole world in front of me. And so I moved to Vegas, one for networking, two for all the events that are on the strip. I don't have to travel and fly and be away from home. And then third, one-way flights. I can get, flights anywhere in the world from Vegas. And so we moved to Vegas for not only quality of life, but business. And we had 1 month of Vegas being, normal Vegas, and it got shut down. And I was in the position, me and the guys with the company, we were in the position where we were solely based we were solely leveraging just speaking fees. As in, like, I didn't have any products, I didn't have any services to offer people. And so basically, right, we came into this point within the business, we scaled it high 6 figures, almost 7 figures. And you get to the point where you say, well, there's only so much of Nick that can go around, and we can't clone him, and we can't, not yet. We can't clone Nick, right? That's in the future. But there's only so much of Nick that can go around, and the company only makes money when Nick shows up. And so, one, my company's not pandemic proof, which no one was, planning for that. And two, my company wasn't recession proof, and I didn't have ways that I was going to scale it. And so, just like you said, our mess can become our message. I think a lot of people, and the majority of people, have been able to find an amazing gift within this COVID during this unprecedented time. And I think for me and the guys in the business, it was one of the greatest gifts that it could give us, because we weren't slowing down. We weren't slowing down. I had no plans on slowing down. I was traveling 80-90% of the year. And I was like, I'm going to do this till the wheels fall off. And so it gave us time to slow down and evaluate the holes in our business. And I think for a lot of people, this was a time for you to not only evaluate the holes in your business, but to evaluate the holes in your relationships, the holes in your body, your mind, all these things that we take for granted or look over. And so for us, we were like, okay, no money is coming in and no people are getting impacted because we're in the live event space, we needed to create some products and services to help people. And so some of the products and services that we created, our brand is called Victorious. And so one of my passions is helping with the youth. And I'm a big believer, if we don't trickle down our information to the youth, like what's the point? Because those are the future people. And so we created Junior Victorious, which is a year-long program for kids anywhere from 10 to 18, where they can get a video a week walking them through the acronym of Victorious. And, so for example, the month of V is about vision. And by the end of that month, the first month of your kid going through junior, that kid know vision, how to create a compelling vision for their life, and how to communicate that vision to not only their parents, but their peers and the people around them. And then, their final heart work, we call it heart work and not homework because kids don't like homework. Their final heart work assignment is a vision board, right? To take that to the next level and program the brain to get more of what they want. So we created Junior Victorious, and then I created something called the Victorious Inner Circle, which is basically just my virtual mastermind, which every single Monday, me and victors all around the world meet. I teach something, I break them out in breakout rooms, they get accountability partners for the week, and it's just like for people who want accountability in the 4 buckets of a victorious life, which are body, mind, relationships, and wealth. And then the massive thing that we've been doing is I have been doing business consulting or business coaching. And what I mean by that is basically taking people who are coaches and experts, whether that's in MLM, direct sales, health and fitness, helping these people break out of that trading time for money or that 9 to 5 and doing things online so they can not only scale it, but they can leverage their time and they can work from anywhere in the world. And I think that's a massive skill, is because right now, I think a lot of people, including us, are realizing that we can make a lot of money and we don't have to leave our house. And so let's teach other people how to do that. And so basically what I'm saying, this long-winded answer, is don't be me. And what I mean by don't be me is don't be a massive influencer or an expert in some sort of industry and not have products and services or different avenues to offer your raving fans. Because 1, you're doing yourself a disservice, and 2, you're doing these raving fans a disservice by not offering them the opportunity to go deeper into your world.
Well, I love that. I love hard work instead of homework. I love that. I love that. So basically what I love about you is you build the whole thing, is that you're looking at your socially, mentally, physically. There's so many facets that if you're not strong, if you have a weak link in those areas, you can fail. Like if you have all the money in the world, but you don't have your health, what good does it matter? You actually do you do bodybuilding, you're doing mindset. So let's talk a little bit about that. There's people that, even after election, they're depressed. Look, they got to pick up the pieces and move on no matter what happens, right? Because it's about their mindset and going out. I love that. I love that heart work instead of homework. And I know you've been dealing with you've been going into kids. I remember we went together and I saw you speak in front of so many of these kids in the inner city and help them out. They're going really with some tough shape, but you were just giving them great advice. But I think a lot of that advice, I was soaking it in going, I need to hear this. This is great for me. I'm like, it's like, I wish I brought every kid I knew to hear you speak. And I was hoping you could share a little bit about that talk and what you were saying to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, kids are a sweet spot in my heart. And when I moved to Vegas, listen, one of my biggest core values, my top core values in my personal life and my business life is contribution. And I wanted to basically be the speaker or influencer or an expert that was in Vegas that's always willing to give back to the city and always willing to give back to the people that are in that city. And so I was able to partner up with the Las Vegas Fire Department to do work with the inner city kids. And like you said, Troy, these kids are in gangs and they're getting shot at and like things that us humans and entrepreneurs probably watching this, we're not facing, right? And so one of the biggest themes for those kids, which this is the same stuff that I teach the adults, right? I'm making these kids super kids because they're learning things that I teach the adults. I said, everything really comes down to focus. And there was a little equation that I told them. I said, focus equals an emotion, and then emotion then leads to an action. And that equation, the exact reason why, if you and I ever wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or if you ever wake up and look at this thing immediately, your whole day is screwed because you're going to see a text message or a phone call or an email that's going to trigger you. And if you don't break out of that pattern, your whole day is negative. And so basically I brought these kids through a focus evaluation, which was simply the power of 3 questions. And I always tell people the reason why I ask so many questions is because the quality of your life comes down to the quality of the questions you ask yourself on a day-to-day basis. Now, why is that important? Is because your brain is a computer. Whether you believe it or not, your brain is a computer. You ask a bad question, you get a bad answer, right? So most people are in the pattern of asking bad questions. For example, why me? Rather than what can I learn from this, right? Totally two different questions, you get two totally different answers. And so I asked the kids the question. The first question was, and all of you listening to this right now, this applies to you. In your life, do you tend to focus on the things that you can control or the things that you can't control? Right? And there's no right or wrong answer. This is just a focus evaluation. And I think we can all agree that, especially during this election and during this unprecedented time, like, all right, yeah, you can vote, but you can't control the election. You can't control the virus. You can't control the shutdown, right? And so let's focus on what we can control. There's a few things that we can control. One, how we show up on a day-to-day basis. No one else has control of that but you. Two, the content that you're consuming on a day-to-day basis. No one's telling you to read all the propaganda and all the news and all the things that make you negative. No one's telling you to read that. That's your choice, right? So the content that you're consuming, and by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, you're doing great because you're listening to content that could change your life. And then third, is the people that you're surrounding yourself with on a day-to-day basis. You are in control of that. And so basically that's what I told the kids. I said, listen, there's a lot of things that we can't control. Gang violence, the neighborhood you grew up in, the environment, but you can focus on the right people to hang out with, the right content to consume, and then you showing up and taking full accountability of your life and doing whatever you're in control of, right? And so that was the first question of them, of the focus evaluation. And then the second one, I'll run through them real quick, is in your life, do you tend to focus on the things that you have or the things that you don't have? And a lot of times as humans, we're programmed to focus on all the things that we don't have. And if you're focused on all the things that you don't have and it's bringing you a negative emotion, you need to shift your focus. But you could be like me and Troy, and you can focus on all the things you don't have, as in goals, ambitions, and visions that we want to achieve.
So I gotta say this, right? I gotta say this. So, the first time we met, I said, okay, I was expecting to make a great impression. You came in hot, you were on fire. You were just, we were eating. I didn't know, like, how are you going to eat? Not having legs, one arm. And I was like, what do I order? And you were just like going with it. Then we went to the pool one day and you're jumping in. And I'm like, every single day. And then I'm with some friends. I'm introducing you to friends. Is Nick always this way? Is he always positive, being a leader? I feel like I'm taking an adrenaline shot every time I'm around you. And the question is, have you always been this way? Are you like, every time we're around Nick, you're always super positive. You're always it's like, you're not in front of a big stage talking to me. It's just you and I or a couple friends. And is there ever a time where you ever say, why me? I don't have any legs. I like to go walking with Troy. Is there ever a time you get down and you just say, are you like always Superman I'm focusing on what I can control?
Yeah. So the thing is that I've built this person. Right. And so we get paid for what we practice in private. And so I have conditioned my brain. I have taken control of my brain, which I think was a victorious life when you take control of your brain and your brain doesn't take control of you. But I've realized through self-awareness that, listen, your brain is the survival brain. It's thousands of years old. And your brain literally is designed to focus on your insecurities, your failures, and all the things that you hate about yourself. Right. And so your brain isn't designed to make you happy. That's whose job? That's our job. And so I've done the work, and my ego's not big enough to say that the work's done, because the work's never done. And so I'm always training, and I'm a student of life, but see, I've conditioned myself to break out of those patterns fast. That's what it is. And so if I find myself in a negative state, I'm probably only there for 5, 10, 15 minutes max, right? Because I have to shift my focus. I know what I'm going through. I'm self-aware. But the thing is that the majority of our conditioning and our programming and us going into negative states and negative patterns, these things are unconscious. So that means that you don't know that they're happening. And so I've been able to take my patterns, my negative programming or my patterns, and take it from unconscious to conscious through self-awareness. And when you take it from unconscious to conscious, you're able to strip power away from that negative pattern because you know it's there. And so what I'm saying is, yes, I still have negative days. I just don't let it consume me as much as an average person who doesn't do personal development and doesn't do work on them. That's all. But what I want to tell everyone here is, like, take a sense of comfort that the training never stops and we're all in a specific journey of our life. And maybe because I'm born with no legs, one arm, and I went through some BS and some challenges that maybe you haven't gone through, that I was programming way earlier than you were. That's it. The only thing that's standing in between me and you and Troy is that we've done the work a little bit longer. That's literally the only thing that's standing in between you and all the people that you look up to. And so to answer your question in a long-winded way is like, yes, I still have negative times, but I'm able to snap out of it quickly because I'm aware of it. Does that make sense?
Mm. Well, it's you're overcoming. Let's talk about mindset a little bit more, because so many people right now, they're going through some tough times. What is some advice you can give them on if they're thinking, because they're one right decision for making something better? Like, you weren't always Nick. I think you were like working out at a gym in Florida, and you weren't this big celebrity. You weren't going around the world getting paid to speak and train, and you've done so many good things, but you weren't always there. What was the one thing you think that changed your life? Did you always know that you were going to make a difference in people's lives the way you are today?
No. The answer is no. And to be honest, I'm 24 years old, and the majority of my life, I hated my body. I thought it was the biggest curse. I thought it was the most disgusting thing that could happen to me. And I think that pain, right? Because there's two reasons why people change, humans change. It's either pain or pleasure. And usually it's pain that gets people to change, not the pleasure part, right? And so I have gone through a lot of pain. And I think because of that pain, I seeked answers, or I seek different perspectives, or I seek different ways to look at things. And so, for example, I was on the bus one time, and I was in middle school, and there was a girl to the left of me, and she was making fun of everyone on the bus. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to have a field day with me. And she looked over me and she said, Nick, I don't even have to start with you. You're already too messed up anyway. Look at you. And from that simple moment on the bus, I created beliefs about myself that girls didn't like me, that I was disgusting, that I'll never have a girlfriend, I'll never have a wife, I'll never have a family, right? Just by one single event. And that was a massive limiting belief for me for the majority of my life. And then I tried to find a different meaning behind the situation. And remember I said, focus equals meaning equals emotion, or the action, right? So it's the meaning you attach behind events. And so for the majority of my life, I thought my body was my biggest curse. And then I was able to find a different story in it. And the different story was, well, if Troy doesn't like me because of my no legs of one arm, or if that girl doesn't like me because of my no legs of one arm, then wait, maybe this disability or this body is actually working for me. And it's actually filtering out the type of people that I don't want in my life anyway. And just by a simple shift in the story that I told myself, it was liberating. And I looked at my body as one of my greatest gifts, my greatest form of influence, my greatest way to connect with people on a deeper level. But I think the one thing that really shifted my life was wrestling or sports. And, we can go into the story real quick here. Is like when I got into high school, my older brother, he passed away. He was a wrestler. I wanted to be just like my brother. All my best friends were wrestlers. I'm from New Jersey, and wrestling was a big deal. And I had this arm, which was 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was going faster than my skin. So it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. And so I made the decision to have the doctors amputate 5 inches of this arm off so I could become a wrestler. And the reason being is because I was looking for the secret sauce that everybody's looking for. And that secret sauce is confidence. It's self-integrity. It's self-worth. And the reason why I think that's so important is because, would you agree that you could be confident in your business but not be confident in your body? Or you could be confident in your body and not be confident in your business. But if you're confident in your body and the relationship that you have within yourself, that confidence can overlap or translate into your business, into your relationships, into your wealth, because you're comfortable with you, which is the most important relationship that you can have. And so I think my life changed once I started to invest in me and seek validation from me and not external forces, girlfriends, boyfriends, mentors, teachers. I wanted to seek acceptance and love from me. And so how I did that was I did physical activities such as wrestling. Wrestling made me feel cool, great about myself. I'm like, I'm a badass, I'm a wrestler, this is amazing. And that translated into schoolwork. That translated into pranking. That translated into giving me enough confidence to go out on the internet. And so to wrap up this whole lesson, what we're talking about here is confidence is a synonym for self-integrity. And how you build confidence and self-worth is you start following through on the promises that you make within yourself. And so, for example, say I said, Troy, at 6 p.m., meet me at Chipotle. This isn't an ad. Meet me at Chipotle. We're gonna have a Chipotle date at 6 p.m. I can't wait. He's like, awesome. And me and Troy put it in our schedule. And Troy shows up, and I don't show up. How many times is it going to take Troy to realize that Nick's unreliable? Maybe he gives me one other chance, just like this interview. Maybe he gives me one other chance, two other chances, whatever it may be, right? But if you flip the script on yourself, how many times of you not showing up for yourself are you going to realize that you're unreliable? And so what that means is every time that you say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym 6 out of the 7 days a week, or oh, I'm going to wake up 30 minutes earlier, or oh, I'm going to close 5 deals this week, and you don't, subconsciously, you're diminishing the relationship you have within yourself. You're diminishing your self-integrity. You're diminishing your word, and you're diminishing your confidence. And so what you'll notice is the highest achievers, the highest winners, often correlate their confidence and their self-integrity to how much they're getting done. How packed is their schedule? How many deals are they closing? But the foundation of it all is the relationship that you have within yourself. And we build that through non-negotiables. I know that was a long answer.
I love it. It was like, hey, no, you hit it. I mean, I love that. We're coming with the heat here because look, one of the most important relationships, obviously the relationship you have with God is the most important, but the relationship you have with yourself. And truly until you have a great relationship with yourself, it's hard to succeed in life, right? You gotta forgive yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta allow yourself room to forgive and to grow. You know, I love this because, you know, one of the things is they say success leaves clues, right? Yeah. And you've been able to hang around some of the most successful, biggest names literally in the world. That you spoke with them, you're friends with them, you've been on their shows, your podcasts, your TV interviews. And that's why they say the Bible is, Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. Who are some of the big names that you've been able to hang out with and learn from? And what have you learned from them?
Yeah, so I'll start with one. That's the big man. That's Tony Robbins. And so, you know, Success leaves clues. I think that's a Tony quote too, right? That's why I used it. I think potentially. I don't know. Who knows? It's all regurgitated in some sort of way. But my breakthrough from Tony, and it's been my breakthrough word or my theme for this past year is compassion. Compassion triumphs all. Compassion always wins. How many times have you seen a deal fall through because there was a lack of compassion on one side? How many times have you seen a relationship break that there was a lack of compassion? Or how many times have you seen someone who just simply has a lack of compassion for other people and it's holding them back? And so for me, the whole compassion thing is where I take it as a speaker, right? Because I'm learning from Tony, but I'm also analyzing how he speaks because he's the greatest and I want to know what he's doing, is everybody has a different form or a different taste of being communicated with. And so if I came out here and I was super aggressive and I was dropping F-bombs, there would be probably a big majority of people that wouldn't like me and wouldn't want to resonate with the way that I communicate. And so what I've noticed about Tony and what I do as well is I can come out on stage and I can be super aggressive. And then I can also change my tonality. And I can come down in this level. And I can get you to really lean into your seat and like to be communicated this way. And I can come from compassion. I can come from my heart. And then I could be also a warrior. And I could be it's just different things. And so for me, I try to drop my judgment just in general life is just like if I meet someone and they're going through something, I don't want to judge them for what they're going through. I just want to be compassionate and try to understand their world. And I think especially for your ideal clients or the people that you're working with, if you can really be compassionate and understand where they're coming from, you have a better playing field of how to serve that person. But if you're trying to listen, the majority or the moment someone feels judged, you immediately close the door for transformation. That's with your kids. That's with your clients. That's with your peers. That's with your team. The moment someone feels judged, they're not going to listen to you. And so in order to eliminate that judgment, you have to come from some sort of compassion standpoint and understand why they're doing this and understand the world that they're living in, their human experience. Another person that I look up to is Ed Milet. Ed Milet is also a man of God, and he is when I found out about Ed, listen, I don't do business or have relationships with people that don't align with my core values. That's one of my biggest foundational principles. And so Ed aligned with my core values. I'm like, how do I kidnap this guy and get more of him? And so I was able to get on his podcast and we became very good friends. And I think from Ed, one of the things that I learned from Ed is that, and it's pretty interesting, is Ed breaks his days up into 3 mini days. And this is the one principle that I learned from Ed that I'd like to share, is like most people are operating off 24 hours, and Ed is operating off, has 3 mini days. And so I think his first day is 6 a.m. to 12. His next day is 12 a.m. to 6. And then his last day is 6 to whenever he goes to sleep. And so the reason why he shares that is because right now in the information age, we're able to access information and communicate information way faster than we've ever been able to before. And so he says, if people are living within 24 hours, he's like, I'm getting more work done in my 3 mini days than you are in a whole entire day, because I know the value in my time and my focus. And so I think the big lesson from, being around Ed is like, intent is a superpower. If you're not intentful about the things that you want to accomplish each and every day, then you're going to let hours slip by. And I'll give you a great example. How many times have we got more work done in the first 2 to 3 hours of the morning than we did in a whole entire day or whole entire week one time? Why is that? Because we had intent. And then second from Ed, before I jump off my Ed train, is most people aren't setting intent on the type of emotions they want to feel on a day-to-day basis. And so if you aren't setting intent on the type of emotions you want to feel, what is dictating how you feel? The election, the news, the BS that makes you feel negative and feel like you're not doing enough, or comparing yourself on social media. And so I think that I learned from Ed is not only the power of focus, but the power of being intentful about what you want and how you want to feel on a day-to-day basis.
Wow, that's outstanding. I love that. Intent, 3 mini days. So, all right. So let me ask you this. You're here in Vegas. I got to grab a workout with you. I want to go out and work out the gym with you. Okay. You're wrestling, you're working out. You're staying fit. You really enjoy working out. You're doing some bodybuilding. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get into bodybuilding? What made you gravitate towards that?
Yep. So when I became a wrestler, I fell in love with the benefits that it gave me, as in like moving my body. Not only the physical benefits, but the mental therapeutic aspect of doing some sort of physical activity. And as I learned more about life and how the body works, is the reason why moving your body is so important is because when you put your body under stress, whether that's a walk, a jog, a workout, your body then releases dopamine, which is the stuff that makes us feel really good. We get dopamine hits from seeing our Instagram likes and how many comments we got, right? So let's get dopamine in a positive way by investing in your body and moving your body. And so I fell in love with becoming an athlete, but I also fell in love with the way that it made me feel. And so after I graduated high school, I got into lifting a little bit, and I moved to Tampa, Florida, to become a bodybuilder, because I was like, I said a few things. Well, the first thing was, I said, there's no guy with no legs when I'm bodybuilding. So if I do it successfully, people are going to catch on. Second, I'll be able to monetize it, because you can't buy a fit body. They can't take this away from me. I can't take a special pill and just be jacked, right? And so I'll be able to monetize that and market that. And the third thing, which was super powerful for me, is people couldn't underplay me, which means they couldn't say, well, Nick, it's easy for you to become a bodybuilder. You have no legs, said no one ever, right? And so they couldn't strip that power away from me. And so I moved to Tampa, and when I moved to Tampa, I made an announcement to all these people that were following me. I said, guys and girls, I'm going to step or hop on the competitive bodybuilding stage before 2017 was over. And to be fully transparent, I have no idea anything about competitive bodybuilding. I'm new, but I know that human nature is when you put yourself in uncomfortable waters, you're going to learn how to sink or swim. And I'm going to swim. I ain't going to sink. I'm going to figure out a way. And I also, it was a massive form of accountability by showing like, yo, hold me accountable. I'm going to do a bodybuilding show before 2017 was over. And so, as you said, success leaves clues. I found the most jacked dude in my proximity that was in bodybuilding for a very long time. And I said, do you want to coach me for my bodybuilding show? You look like you know what you're doing. And what that does is, what we're taught is, when you go to someone who has the results that you want, they're able to condense decades into years. Which I don't know about you, but I'm always down to invest to condense time. Time is our most valuable asset, and we don't get it back. And so I did. I set out on a show, and I made an announcement. I knew people would follow my prep, and I did a 12-week preparation for the show. And what I also knew was that people would still give me a standing ovation and clap their hands if I stepped out in there and I looked chubby and I was fat and I wasn't in great shape, because I have no legs, one arm. well, it's not how I roll. I want to win. I want to be outstanding. And so I just was all in on this prep and gave everything that I could. And my family was coming, so I didn't want to look like poop and my family, fly to Florida and me come out, right?
Added
And so,
pressure.
yeah, and so I went out on that bodybuilding stage at 5 to 6% body fat, and I took third against able-bodied guys, like full-bodied guys. And this was just a testament not only to me, but to everyone. And I have a quote that says, it's not the physical body that holds you back, but the biggest disability you can have is your mindset. It's your conditioning. And I wanted to show people that firsthand or first finger, that I was just throwing myself out here on this massive stage and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to follow through on it. And that's how I met The Rock, right? Another person that was in my proximity. I met The Rock through bodybuilding. And so I'm glad that I did bodybuilding because I made a great relationship with that. And so really, bodybuilding and health and fitness is now the foundation of my life, and it's a lifestyle. And I think that it gives me confidence. It gives me self-integrity. And that confidence is able to translate into interviews, into sales calls, into business, into relationships, into women, like all that stuff, right? Stemmed from me investing in myself. And so, yeah, that's my whole bodybuilding journey.
Well, you know what I love about this, Nick, is that your mind is like a muscle and it needs to be worked. And the reason why you're having so many top individuals, you're having people that maybe they barely even have a Facebook page. The reason why they're reaching and hiring you and going after your programs, huge corporations, huge companies are having you come in and train their people, is because your mind is truly like a muscle. So you're not only working your body, but you're really teaching people the mindset, and you do it as good as anybody. When you look at all the things that you've had to overcome in life, the constant adjusting that you've had to do, it's really inspiring the people of all ages. I watched you in the inner cities talking to, a lot of minority kids, right, that don't have a lot. And you just knocked it out of the park. Your heart, they say when you open up your heart, people open up your mind. And I think the reason why I encourage, whether you're just new looking at this, or maybe you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I will tell you this: you are the real deal. You are absolutely the real deal, and just amazing. So you mentioned, so I got to go back to this because some people, they probably seen the video, and I encourage you to go to YouTube and watch it. But I'm going to start to close here in a minute, and but before I do, there was a story that was really entertaining. I loved the Rock story, okay? And I know that's all over YouTube. I encourage you to you got videos of, you got 50 million views and things like that. But there was a story right here in Vegas. You were working out and the Rock walked in the gym while you were there, right? And I think that's the first time you met him or something like that. Or tell that story. Tell about Wayne John, the Rock. Tell him that story.
Yeah. So previously, before we met, I had blown him up, sent him as many bodybuilding videos as I could, and he knew who I was through bodybuilding videos. And so I came out here in 2017 for Mr. Olympia, which is a massive bodybuilding expo that happens here in Vegas every year. And I'm a big believer in moments of being guided, where you're at the right place at the right time because you're buzzing off the frequency, and God, the universe, whatever you believe in, has just put you in the right direction and put a person in your life at the perfect time. And so the expo was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I went Friday, I went Saturday, and Sunday I decided to just hang at the hotel. And there is a famous gym. I don't know if it's open now, but there was a famous gym in Las Vegas called City Athletic Club. And the reason why it's famous is because the lighting and the mirrors make you look better than what you look like. So it's really great for photo shoots, and it's amazing. And so I went to this gym, and when I go into the gym, my buddy came running up to me. He goes, "Dude, The Rock is upstairs lifting." I'm like, "Wow, that's interesting. That's amazing. Can I still work out? Like I'm on prep, like I have a competition." And he's like, "Yeah." And so I climb up these stairs, and lo and behold, there's 4 security guards, and there's Dwayne in the middle of them, and he's working out. I'm like, "Oh my God, like it's really The Rock." And I said to my team that was with me, I said, "Don't bother him. He already knows who I am. If The Rock is who he says he is, he'll come up to me. Let's just test his character a little bit. He already knows who I am."
You're playing it cool.
Yeah. And so at one point, Dwayne's next to me and he's lifting and I'm lifting and we're paying each other no mind. Like he looked at me a little bit like, "Oh shit, that's probably like that Nick guy." But there's just no interaction. And then about 45 minutes later, he goes over into the corner, he takes his headphone off and he gets bombarded. There was a lot of legends in that gym at the time. There was CT Fletcher and Kai Green was also there, some massive people in the bodybuilding industry. And so The Rock was just bombarded. And I was like, "Don't worry about it. Like it'll come. And a security guard comes up to me and he taps me on my shoulder. He goes, "You're Nick, right?" And I'm like, "Not many people look like this. Like I'm Nick." And he goes, "Can Dwayne meet you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been waiting." And so they escort me over into the corner and they bring Dwayne over, and he tries his best to get on my level, and he crouches down. He's like, "Dude, I'm such a big fan. Can I have a picture with you?" And, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, bro. Let's do it, But on the inside, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson." And we take the picture, and I looked at him and I said, "I'm going to do what you did." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to become the first Calvin Klein model with no legs. I'm going to speak all over the world. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." I just unloaded on him. And he's like, "Nick, you're right." He said, "Because people like you and I, they put us in any industry and we adapt and overcome." And also, just to give people why did I blurt out all my goals and ambitions to Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Because he knows a lot of people. And I never know what kind of doors he's going to open. And I'm, like you said, Troy, I'm a firm believer that we're one person away, we're one handshake away, we're one piece of knowledge away from changing the trajectory of our life. And so I'm always going to plant seeds. And what I mean by plant seeds is I'm always going to share my goals and ambitions and vision with people, because you never know what door they can open up, or they never know how fast they can help you make that happen.
Well, your great deeds are planting seeds in a lot of lives. And I love that you can go from a mess to a message very, very fast in life. And it's true. Your network is more important than your net worth. It's who you're hanging around, who you're becoming. Are you a good man of character? And so, I think one of the things I think is your systems. You have fantastic systems, right? And so Victorious, your program. So the last question before I let you go is, I highly encourage people to reach out to you. I study you. I buy your programs, and not only that is I'm able to get around you. But today in the world where you can do things virtually and study, where do people find you? Because so many people want to grow. They want to grow financially. I mean, let's face it, they do want to grow financially. But to grow financially, you got to grow. You got to grow mentally and emotionally. You have to tie that all in for you to be well-rounded, right? So where can people find you? How do they find you in your programs?
Yeah. So the first tip to find me is take a picture of my last name, because it's way too long for you to remember. And so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok. But the majority, if you want to get me, it'll probably be on Instagram. That's where I do most of my content, and it's not my team posting. It's mostly me. I do most of the messaging. And then, like I said, right now I help coaches or experts scale their business online to 6 and 7 figures. You can shoot me a message saying Pivot or Troy or Nick. And I know that you came from Troy's interview, and we can jump on a call and see how we can best serve each other. But I'm on all the platforms, but my favorite one's Instagram.
Well, he's Nick Santonastasso, and I always have a hard time with that. But boy, I tell you, we really appreciate you coming here. I encourage everybody to find your content, study you, because success leaves clues. And as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. And every time I'm around you, Nick, I feel like I'm a better person. I really mean that. I feel like I'm growing, and what you've overcome and who you inspired. But you're the whole package. I mean, you really are. I mean, you're such a nice person. You don't have this big ego. You're very, obviously you're very popular. Everybody wants a piece of you. It means everything that you came on to, time with Troy. And, I tell all my contacts, you got to meet Nick. He's like the greatest person. If you really want to take your game to the next level, if you want to grow, if you want to become a better person, I always say, if you want to have a better marriage, hang out with people that have a good marriage. If you want to have a better relationship with God, hang out with people that have a good relationship with God. If you want to be better with finance, money, emotionally, everything, you just are the total package, and you can help with all those areas. So any closing words?
No, that was great. You did it. You crushed it, Mike.
And by the way, I'm so excited to see you, because we both got a puppy at the same time, the same type of puppy. I was a little influence on you. Okay. Yeah. Right. And hopefully we're going to build a house together. That's my goal, is we're going to be neighbors. So God bless you, Nick. I so appreciate you. I mean, you're such a messenger. You're such a servant leader, and I just love you. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thank you, bro. Live too.
Bye-bye.